Right, what's happening, people, and welcome back to the Joey Knight podcast. Welcome today to my guest, Matisse. Thank you very much for coming, mate. Appreciate having you here. How you doing?
Pleasure, bro. It's been in the making. Do you know what I mean? We've been speaking about this for a while, so I'm glad to be here. It's good to be here, man.
Well, listen, if anyone doesn't, and I'm guessing a lot of you already do, if anyone doesn't follow Matisse, his handles are on screen now, and the link to his channel will be in the bio to this video. I can vouch for him. He's banging out very, very good content almost every day.
Every day, almost, yeah. Pretty much every day, yeah.
Yeah, so definitely be over there, subscribe to his channel, and then you'll see all of his content going out. And in today's video, we're going to get straight into it. We're coming off the back of a bad result against Villa. It's a game that, in all honesty, I think a lot of us sort of thought we were going to lose. But the good thing is, and this is a sort of rarity in our season at the minute, because obviously we're sort of playing once a week, but we haven't got long to wait to potentially right the wrongs. In a lot of people's opinion, potentially get beat again. But we have got the match tomorrow night against Brighton and Hove Albion in, what's it called now? The Caballero Cup. Caballero, Carabao, yeah.
Carabao Cup.
It's the Carling Cup to me. That's the thing.
The Carling Cup was the original.
It's the Carling Cup.
Steven Gerrard own goal.
That's it.
That's what we love.
That was his first goal for Chelsea, wasn't it?
Against
it
Arsenal.
Just never happened to move. So yeah, in the League Cup, let's call it. Obviously tomorrow night, 8 o'clock kick off, Stamford Bridge. It's a match that I will be in attendance for. And in this video, we are going to break down that game. We're going to look at the threats that Brighton will pose us. And both me and Matisse are going to be giving our starting 11 for that game. So straight away, getting into it, Matisse, are there any positives that we can take from the Villa game into this game?
Wow, really, we're scratching at the surface here. But I don't actually think for some of the individuals, their performances was actually that bad. I think Mudryk was good. I think he created opportunities. The reverse pass for Jackson, we saw the run down the left, the ball across the pitch, really. Should have had a tap-in, someone on the end of that. It's a great ball across the face of goal, and no one's anticipating, no one's on the end of it. I thought Levi Cole wasn't too bad with his long balls, his switches, his passing through the lines, and his duels was 100%, I saw as well on statistics. So I don't think some individuals were poor, but I think we've got to almost be building on that. And there's a lot of changes to be made to that team. So it's difficult as a Chelsea fans to say, oh, there's positives, because we need to win games. We have to start picking up points. We can't be this team that have nice performances, have good possession, have good chances created, but we don't have any final product on that. I think when you look at both ends of the pitch, final third and also the defensive third, there's individual errors, whether that's finishing, decision-making, or it's, Thiago Silva giving the ball away and then we can see the goal. So we can't be this team that kind of, in the middle third, we look good, but then there's no substance to it. There's no end product to it. So otherwise, that's how you become a mid-table team, which is unfortunately what we are right now, where we're just kind of like, oh, that was good, that was nice. And then we move on to the next game. It's like, we actually need to have some serious points here.
It can be worse than being a mid-table team. I was speaking about this on the kickoff the other day with Brian, and he said to me, do you know what, though? You do play some good football at times, though. And I said, yeah. So did Burnley. So did Southampton last season. Yeah. Southampton played some good football at times. Swansea, when they went down, played some good football at times. Yeah. It's irrelevant, man. We need to get the points on the board. Yeah. And this is a match that I get, it's not contributing to our domestic season, but it's massively important, isn't it? Just to touch on there before we move on from it, one man you didn't name there, who a few people said could have done better for the goal, but I think best performance in a Chelsea shirt so far was Robert Sanchez in that match. And I do think that there were a lot of question marks in my head surrounding Sanchez after the first 2 or 3 performances that we had seen from him. And maybe it's a sort of silver lining here, because for a goalkeeper to show their ability, what has to happen? They have to come under fire, sort of thing. And that's not good. So it could be a backhanded compliment in a way, but I think that Robert Sanchez in the last few matches has started to fill me with a bit more optimism and give me a bit more security that maybe he might be a man that can do a job for us this season. Going forward, we'll look into that in the future. But in terms of the importance of this match, it's a match against Brighton. We know that there's a little bit of a rivalry now, probably more from Brighton's side, from ours. Brighton must hate the sight of Chelsea coming knocking, or potentially when they look at how some of the departures, including Cucurella and maybe Sanchez to a point, Graham Potter, and the jury's still out on Caicedo, they might be happy. Their eyes might be lighting up with pound notes when they see Chelsea coming. But obviously, this is away from the transfer business. This is away from the outgoings and incomings that we've taken off of Brighton, and just just on the pitch, how important is this match that we go and get a win here?
It's sad, but this has become a little rivalry now because there is a lot of, you know, jeopardy in terms of the staff, in terms of the players, like you said, in terms of the former manager. The amount of money we've actually given to Brighton in terms of compensation for managers, for players, has been insane. They almost took Levi Colwill off us. And I remember De Zerbi in the summer speaking publicly about a player that's under contract for us and saying, you know, listen, that's a player that we want, etc., etc. It was actually getting a little bit disrespectful.
He was fuming.
He was fuming, yeah. So I feel like if we don't win this game, considering what we've done with Brighton in recent years in terms of taking all of their infrastructure, taking their players, and then still not being better than them on the pitch currently, because again, they're above us in the table. They were last year as well. They're in Europe. It would be a very embarrassing kind of moment for the board where you've put all of your resources into, you know, basically copying and pasting this club, and you're still not better than them after taking what you deem to be best from them. We haven't taken Bloom. I guess that's maybe the missing piece. Who knows? But it's a massive game. We need to win, because for a season where it's very clear that objectively it's going to be very difficult to make Champions League, which is for me still the objective even after this slow start. We know the fixtures coming up in October don't look too good. We need to get a trophy. This team have lost, I think, 5 Wembley finals in a row, whether it's against Manchester City under Sarri, whether it's against Liverpool twice in one season, against Leicester. You know, we need badly, and Arsenal, of course, as well. Badly, we need to win a cup. I think this young group, I remember when Jose Mourinho first came in, we was talking about the Carabobbins, Carling Cup. Do you know what I mean? We were talking about that first trophy, the likes of Joe Cole speaking on it, that own goal from Gerrard.
Yeah.
That galvanised a lot of that group to go and win the Premier League, to go and win trophies. Obviously, this season, we're not going to be winning the Premier League, but this team, they need to know what it feels like to win. They need to know that at Chelsea, you need to win trophies, success. Emma Hayes speaks about it all the time in terms of this is Chelsea. So for me personally, I think this competition, yes, it's not the glitz and glamour of the Premier League or the Champions League. Obviously, the FA Cup, it goes above that as well. But for this team, they desperately need it, because it actually could kick them on and spur them on. And I think the manager needs it as well, because there's all these Spurs links and nearly men and bottlers. That needs to be flushed out of the system immediately. And the only way to do that is by getting a trophy on the board in February, early days.
And us as the fans.
Yeah.
Us as the fans.
Yeah,
we need it, mate. We've been starved of success. And I always use this analogy of someone had told me in 2003 that you're about to go on the most successful run in this club's history, but after 20 years, you're going to need 2 or 3 seasons to rebuild. I'd have gone, yeah, I'll have a bit of that. But at the same time as that, it doesn't change the fact that, like you say, 5 cup finals in a row that we've lost. We have great memories of what we were saying was the League Cup, 2005 at Cardiff. I was actually at Cardiff for the Community Shield a couple of months after that. Drogba again against Arsenal. So, yeah, it's really important. When we look at Brighton, they're a really well-run club, you know. I'm not saying that it was our sole purpose to weaken Brighton, but no one can deny that we weakened Brighton in terms of the business we did, the players and the staff members we took away from them, and then they are looking stronger than us at the minute. You know, with Tony Bloom at the helm, he's a really, really good owner of a club, and he's doing good things for them.
Yeah.
But Brighton, you know, I don't want to say they're there to be got at, but this will be their, 3rd game in 6 days?
Yeah.
They will rotate. That being said, they rotated against Man United, didn't they? And that didn't prove too badly for them. And actually, I think that we're probably a little bit naive at times as football fans to look at the stature of the club and the history of a club and go, oh yeah, well, they haven't got the same sort of depth as us. They have. At the moment, with our injury crisis, they got better depth. You know, João Pedro was a player that we're both quite impressed by so far.
Pre-season as well, we played against him. Asu Fati coming off the bench there the other day. Matoma come off the bench and scored literally a couple of seconds into the half-time, the second half kicking off. So there is serious depth. We know Billy Gilmore's out there as well. We know him very well. So I think with Brighton, what is similar almost to Pep is that they have, you know, double stacked in most positions, and they are flexible and they are ready to rotate because their system is so nailed on. It's so clear. You know, no matter who comes into that team, they play the same way, and everybody kind of fits into this bigger than the individual kind of thing. You know, there is no one player that makes Brighton tick. It's Pascal Gross one day, it's Billy Gilmore the next, it's Matoma, then it's Danny Welbeck. He's scored against us a few times. So, it's a situation where it doesn't really matter who Brighton play, they're going to play the same way. And the way they play is the main problem for us.
It's a sad sort of situation that we're in where I'm trying to sort of hope for another team to be hindered rather than just Chelsea being really good.
Yeah.
But we are where we are. And when I look at Brighton's run of fixtures now, you know, as I say, it will be their third game in 6 days. And then they go on a little run of fixtures where they got Villa. We know what a tough test they are. Marseille. And obviously, you know, because they lost that first game in the Europa League, that's going to be of vital importance. Yeah. Then I think they've got City and Liverpool in the league and then Ajax again. So they're about to go on a hard run of fixtures, Brighton. And obviously the manager will have that in the back of his mind. But like we say, they're a class outfit. They are quality. But here's the upside to it. If we can go and get a win over Brighton, and let's have it right, I said the exact same thing for Villa, but until things start to work and until the wheel starts to turn, I'm going to keep saying this. But if we can go and get a win against Brighton, it's going to do absolute wonders for our confidence, you know, to be able to say we've gone and we've beat a sort of top 4 contender, because let's not have it wrong, Brighton are a top 4 contender. I give Brighton as good a chance to do Spurs at the minute. They're really, good, honestly. Like they're a team that I'm really, really impressed by, Brighton. But that being said, personnel, manager-wise, the stature of the club, we've got to be looking to beating teams like Brighton. Yeah. So let's, I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's have your starting 11 first, and then we'll move on to mine. So to start you off, what formation are you going for?
4-2-3-1. And I'm playing a very strong team. I don't want to see... I mean, I don't think we can afford to even rotate anyway with the injuries that we have. I saw the bench a lot of times in recent games, and it hasn't been strong. We've seen benches with young players from the under-23s, under-18s that we're not even sometimes familiar with. So I think for me, Sanchez in goal. Gusto, obviously picking up that red card. I think he's still available for this game. I think it's the Premier League games he's missing.
I think that both are actually available for this game. I think Gusto and Jackson are available for this game, you know.
Okay, so the suspension applies to the Premier League. So for this game, Gusto plays at right back. I'm dropping Thiago Silva because I think he's made one too many individual errors for me in the recent, you know, in the Premier League games. I'm going Decisive next to Levi Colwill, and then left back, I'm starting Ian Maatsen. There has been talk about Cucurella maybe coming into the team, and he's basically on his way out if we are to see what he agreed personal terms with Manchester United. Manager clearly maybe doesn't favour him. They're looking at a January exit. I just want to play players that are going to be here. Maatsen still has to agree a contract as well, but I think based on his pre-season performances, I think we should be looking to agree a contract with Ian Maatsen. So I want to see him play at left back. In the midfield, I've got Enzo next to Caicedo. I think that partnership needs to be given a good run of games now to establish some chemistry. I think there's balance there. I want to see Enzo deeper, picking up the ball, spraying it, playing his natural game that he played at Benfica. I don't want to see Enzo playing in the 10, making runs, you know, being this guy that is almost a presser and is almost waiting to receive the ball. He should be on the ball at all times as much as possible, having the most touches. And then in the 10, I got Palmer. I think he needs to start as well. He was very good off the bench against Villa. On the right, I don't want to play Sterling. I'm hoping Madueke's fit. Madueke against Wimbledon was, and I was there, the only player that really looked like he could cause any damage against Wimbledon. I want to start Madueke. If he's available, then I start him. I drop Sterling because I do think his performance against Aston Villa was shambolic, to be honest, with some of the decision-making he was having. That 2v1 with the goalkeeper, come on. I mean, it's just atrocious. Left-hand side, I'm sticking with Mudryk. Up front, I would like to start Broja or Washington ahead of Jackson. I think Jackson could do with being taken out of the firing line now. He's had a good amount of games to kind of put the ball in the back of the net, prove. I think he needs to be taken out and kind of said, listen, watch from the sidelines. We're going to have a bit of coaching now. So Washington or Broja, who is more available? That'll be down to the medical team. Obviously, Broja just coming back. He's the more senior player, but I'd go with that personally against Brighton, I think.
If you had to take your pick out of Washington and Broja?
I haven't seen any of Washington, so it's tough to kind of judge him. I think he's one of those players that should have gone out on loan, or would have gone out on loan, but obviously we didn't have enough places in the end, and, you know, striker crisis and whatnot in terms of injuries. Broja come off the bench the other day, had one header, looked maybe a little bit rusty, but I'd probably start with Washington. Just because Broja, I don't really know medically where he's at, and then bring him off the bench. We don't want to rush him. If he gets injured again, I mean, we're in some serious trouble.
I think when you look at the fact that you could bring Broja off the bench and then maybe sort of around the hour mark or something. The only thing that I'm a little bit pessimistic on is the timing of some of the substitutes sometimes. Like, I feel like Pochettino can be a little bit reactive rather than proactive with these substitutes, and I'd like to see changes a little bit earlier, but that's modern day football, you know. You do see substitutes around that 70-minute mark, but it's a good side. I'm going to stick with the formation. I'm going to go 4-2-3-1 here. Mine is a little bit rogue, but I do think it's quite strong. It's just there'll be a little bit of rotation in terms of where people are playing.
Okay.
Sanchez in goal. Best performance I've seen from him in the Chelsea shirt so far. I think some people would argue that maybe we should see Petrovic, but obviously I don't want to change too much. And the main sort of flaw I see in this team at the moment is they haven't had time to gel. So there's no time like the present to give them more matches, more minutes together, to gel, to establish relationships, patterns of playing, to get to know each other. So I'm going Sanchez in goal. Right back, whether Milo Gusto is available or not, we now know that he's not going to be available for the next 3 matches. So do we change something, right? And do we give that player a match to get ready for the 3 matches that are there? So this will be the one that might shock you a little bit. Right back, I'm going Caicedo. Caicedo played there for Brighton. He did a good job there. Always deputised very well. I don't see Caicedo as our future at right back. Obviously, look, every single Chelsea fan wants one thing and one thing only, and that is Reece James available for 38 domestic games of the season. But the way it looks, it's not going that way, is it? So we need to be able to hang our hat on other players there. And I do think that having a little run out for Caicedo there might be beneficial for him. We'll see how he gets on there. Sometimes you stumble upon solutions, don't you?
I remember when Michael Essien used to play out there all the time.
Exactly. So it can happen, and I'm willing to give it a little chance of Caicedo at right back. Centre back pairing. It pains me to say this, but I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to drop Thiago Silva for this match. I've heard a few murmurs from someone that I spoke to recently that was close to Frank Lampard, and Frank Lampard actually said to this person, for what it's worth, whether you choose to believe me or not, this is on the rumour mill, but Frank Lampard said that someone needs to drop Thiago Silva, and he didn't have the bottle to do it at the time because obviously, you know, he's such an established player in that team and he's the most senior figure in that team as well, that it's very hard to do so. But he said that quite often he'd want to go to a 4 at the back, but the reason you'd need to play a 3 is to facilitate Thiago Silva. And we have seen a couple of times he's been beat for pacing behind. That is not me saying that I don't rate Thiago Silva, that I don't think he's one of our most important players, but I do think in a match like this, where I'm not saying I want to rotate too much, but we've got a little bit of an option there, I've maybe dropped Thiago Silva, so I would start Disasi and Colwell at centre-back. I do not want to see Colwell anywhere near that left-back slot. A man I do want to see there is Ben Chilwell. We were seeing him at left wing. He's then been brought out of that left wing position, and instead of being put back to his natural position where, let's be honest, he's vice-captain. So you would imagine that he's one of the first names on the team sheet. He's been dropped. It's a head-scratcher. We're going to get onto that later on. But I would have Ben Chilwell at left-back. My 2 in the pivot, I'm starting Enzo Fernandez, obviously. I don't want to see him push further forward. Not only do I not want to see him there because I'm thinking that it doesn't suit his game as well, I think we're ignoring very obvious options that are sort of hiding in plain sight in front of us. And I'll get onto that. But Enzo Fernandez, I want to see him paired by Ugochukwu. I've been massively impressed by him when I've seen him play, and people might sort of laugh at that and sneer at that and say, well, how have you been impressed by anyone? You ain't been winning. But we've got to look for the positives we can. And I believe that when I've watched Ugochukwu play, especially against Bournemouth, I don't know what I was doing at 19 years old, mate, but I definitely weren't that level-headed, weren't that calm and composed. And he's shown maturity beyond his years. Really good range of passing as well. So I think that, again, I spoke about sometimes stumbling upon the solution. Wouldn't it be ironic if we've gone out and signed Caicedo, we've gone out and signed Lavia, and then a 19-year-old Ugochukwu ends up being a man for us there. But more, you know, crazier things have happened in football, 100%. And I want to see him given minutes. Then in front, in the 10, I'm going to agree with you, it's got to be Cole Palmer. I don't know how he hasn't had a start so far. I was at the match against Nottingham Forest. He came on, he looked very good, right? Then, obviously, we see him come off the bench against Bournemouth, and he looks like our most creative player at that point in the game. And obviously, once again, against Villa, he spread that lovely ball, switched it for Chilwell. And again, you'd normally fancy Chilwell to score there. Actually, I thought their keeper, really, really good keeper, one of the best in the league there. We could have had a few goals on a day. But let's not cry over spilt milk. To the right-hand side, I'm going to agree with you again. I'm going to rest Raheem Sterling. Doesn't mean I'm dropping. Resting and dropping are very, very different things. You know, I've probably been critical of Raheem Sterling in the past, but I do think Raheem Sterling's a massively important player for us. However, in this match, I am going to rest him. And on that right-hand side, I am going with a player that you did have in your lineup. I'm going Ian Maatsen. Ian Maatsen can play anywhere on that pitch, mate. Trust me. He can play anywhere across there. And I do think with Ian Maatsen there, Cole Palmer there, and then eventually what I'll move on to is Mudryk on the left-hand side. Maybe Mudryk's going to sort of stay there, but Ian Maatsen and Cole Palmer can be a little bit more interchangeable, I think, between the two of them. We've seen Man City do it over the years. We sort of see Arsenal to an extent do it every now and again, and I think that they can offer us a little bit of versatility there. I look at this game and I think, okay, experience is important, but I want legs, you know, I do want legs. And one thing as well is Brighton won't fear us. Brighton will come to play us. Believe me, like, they're not sitting in a low block and whatever. Brighton will come and play some good football against us. And I do think there'll be opportunities to get in behind here. So I think that Ian Maatson on the right-hand side, Cole Palmer in the 10, Mudryk on the left-hand side. We all know he played well against Villa. We don't really think he should have come off. I definitely don't. I don't know whether you'd echo that, but I don't think he should have come off against Villa. No. And I just think that he needs a run in this team to be able to prove his worth. The jury's still out. I'm not saying he's a brilliant player. I'm not saying he's not a brilliant player. I'm saying I need to see a run from him. Up top, here's the position that me and you might differ on ever so slightly. I would be starting with Amanda Broha. Okay. I think that there's a definite potential that Broha comes in and takes that number 9 spot off of Nicholas Jackson. Obviously, David Washington, we haven't seen too much of him. He's a lot taller than I thought he was going to be. When I saw him warming up, I was like, oh, okay, he's a fair height, and I think he's got that baby face. We were saying about this before. People always say to me when they see me, you're a bit smaller than I thought you was. And it's like, you see a picture of someone, you don't always know. So David Washington, he looks like he could be a physical threat up front, but I'd rather see him come off the bench in this. I don't think that we can hang our hat on a young guy coming over from Brazil, never played domestic football in England before. Whereas obviously Broha, I think, is very much at that level, but I think obviously he's coming back from an injury, so I'd like to see him leading the line for us. So as I say, we've got our two teams there. We've seen who both are going for. Let's move on to match predictions here.
Are we going with our heads or our hearts? Because
on this channel, hearts always, mate.
Well, then I'm going to go over Chelsea win, because I always go over Chelsea win, even though I'm not confident. But it is going to be like of the slimmest of margins. Like, if I'm going with Chelsea wins these days, it's like 1-0. I can't even go 2, because how are we going to get 2 goals when I can barely see us getting 1? So I have to go like 1-0 and hope that we keep a clean sheet. And if we avoid individual errors, which is where a lot of the goals conceded have come from this season, then we can keep a clean sheet. You know, that is not, I don't think, too far much of a stretch out of the realm, especially with Sanchez playing very well. So I'm going to go 1-0. Same score with Aston Villa.
Now tell me with your head what you're going with.
I think Brighton are better than us.
Yeah.
I think Brighton are better than us. I think they play better football than us. They have more organisation, and they have a better plan. They know exactly what they have to do when they go out onto that pitch. And I think because we're going to make these changes, if we're going to go with the lineups we've gone with, the centre-back partnership we've never seen. You know, Caicedo at right-back we've never seen, even though at the Emirates last season, like you said, he was incredible against Martinelli. You know, Cole Palmer from the start we've never seen. Amanda Broha starting from the off, it hasn't happened in over a year. There's so much unknowns. That is not good for a team that know everything. So I think Brighton will probably win. And I think it could easily be, unfortunately, like it could be like a 2-0.
Right.
It could be a real lesson for everybody, not just Pochettino tactically, but it could be a lesson for the board. You can't just take, and then replicate. Doesn't work like that.
Yeah, I mean, you can under Roman, but it's not working so far under Toppoli.
He had his own thing going on.
So, look, if I'm going with my head, I'm going to say it's again, and I think I got this off you. I'm sure I watched somewhere where you said this. It's a copy and paste, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're going to see us start off lively. We're going to see us be creative early on. We're going to see us miss some big opportunities, and it's going to come back to bite us in the arse. I would say, with my head, the match probably goes to extra time, finishes scoreless, 0-0, and then maybe we end up sort of choking at the last and losing the game in extra time or on penalties. With my heart, I am praying for anything. I don't care whether it's a 1-0 win from an own goal from Brighton, beach ball goes onto the pitch and someone hits it off that and goes in like we saw Darren Bent do in the past. I don't care how it comes. We need to win this match. But what I am way more interested in than my own view is your lot's opinion on this match. How does it go? I know that a lot of us are going to be doom and gloom about this match and sort of have already drawn our conclusions already. But I want to know from you lot, because I'm very, very interested in this. What do Chelsea need to do to win the match? What differences, what changes do you want to see from Chelsea in this match that you believe will propel us to a victory and hopefully kickstart a good run of form going forward? Thank you again to Matisse for joining me today. Obviously, his link is in the description to this video, so hit that, head over to his channel where you'll see all of his content going out. I will be reading all of your comments as soon as this video drops. I'll try and get back to as many of you as I possibly can, so please let me know your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the bell so that you get a notification every time one of my videos gets uploaded, and I will see you all in the next one.